Greetings and welcome to you, brave citizens of our new world. I'm Toronto's greatest supervillain and evil genius, Dr. Terawatt. This is our Layer 3.1, and today is another Questions Friday. So let's see what we've got. How many different RPG systems have you played and or game mastered? I have played a lot of different systems. I've played Dungeons & Dragons 3.5, which I believe was my first. I played the Star Wars D&D game that was out during that time, 4th edition, 5th edition. I know there's like a dozen of this is like D20 Modern. I've played Paranoia. I've played Mage the Awakening. There's a whole bunch of like other tabletop games that we've kind of gotten through, which have been a huge amount of fun. I've only DM'd really 2 games. One, the game that we're currently doing on our Twitch channel, which is our 5th edition game that we're playing. And 2, there was a game that, like my first foray into DMing, which was a long time ago, and I was running a 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons game, which I'm not a huge fan of that system, just because, like, it was good for getting new people into it, but I wouldn't suggest that new people get into doing tabletop games with 4th edition, because I felt personally it was way too simplified and it just boiled it down, and it's a bad representation for tabletop games for people who are getting into it as their first game. I'm just wondering about the Terawatt fictional universe. What happened to create such a surreal situation? I mean, the heroes, Captain Awesome, etc., are rather innocuous and silly. The villains don't really do villainous things. If anything, they're simply humans with good social ideas that the masses might not like. And the really bad guys, like Professor Skull, don't get into battles with Captain Awesome as should be. I've been doing research into old stories and situations, but it doesn't give me much in the way of why. You're in there, Doc. Help a writer out. Well, not all bad guys are as cut and dry as Saturday morning cartoons have taught us they are. Sometimes bad guys look just like average, everyday, normal people, and truth be told, a lot of good guys that are out there, people that run around wearing the mantle of hero, that are, out there to save the day, sometimes they're not really there to save the day, are they? And that is something that is a lot more visible here than it is in, say, Saturday morning cartoons. Doc, a question for you. Well, this is Questions Thursday, so... For the Layer 3.1, are you operating on the city's power, or are you opting to use a standalone power source? If it is the standalone option, how clean and renewable is it? Justin, the system that we're using to power the lab here is one of the cosmic reactors that I use to run the atomic dismemberment array that I have, and it's more than enough power output to run the lab on its own, so we don't have to worry about the rest of the grid, because I kind of figured this out. One of the easiest ways to catch a villain like me is to look for discrepancies in your power grid. If there's an abandoned warehouse somewhere that actually is our secret lair and it's drawing terawatts of electricity, you probably should look into that. Hello, Doc, I have more questions for you and your face. What are your plans for the LGBT plus community, and more specifically the trans community, in your new world? As a very queer person, I would like to know. Well, as a person who could be categorized as a gender heterosexual biromantic, I don't have a lot of plans for the LGBTQ plus a community, per se. As it stands, one of the things I kind of like backburnered and hope to do at some point in the future is to just normalize the notion of gender and include that as a part of everyone's education growing up. And including in that, I'm also going to have like a psychology kind of thing that happens with kids to sort of give children a lot more emotional awareness and emotional constructivity as they're growing up, because a lot of people will go to a therapist or they'll go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist, and then they'll come out going like, wow, I learned so many things, and it's like, yes, but all of these things you could have learned very easily if this was anywhere part of our educational curriculum. Emotional education, I think, is something that we need to focus on in the new world, and the LGBTQA+ community is going to be a part of that. We're going to be educating people more on what's out there, what certain words mean, what the definitions are, classifications, etc., etc. I mean, at the end of the day, what I would really love to see is just people get to love who they want and get to be treated however, and there isn't weird classifications that separate people specifically into, oh, you're a girl, so you have to do these things, and oh, you're a boy, so you have to do these things, and oh, you're gay, so you have to be like this, and oh, you're bi, so you need to be like these things. Like, I kind of want to do away with that stuff and normalize the whole situation so that people can just live their lives. Well, hello there, you handsome you. It is I, your personal bodyguard. As discussed in your previous videos, misinformation will be illegal except for the inspirational beliefs like religions and mottos. With this, I would assume that you would also preserve the culture linked to these. Now, it made me think about something. Culture and religion differences had always been a source of conflicts, like any major differences between individuals who would do and sometimes gets out of hand. It can lead to events I would describe as the Silent Crusade, where some followers take major actions that may be for a little bit more than simple recognition or acceptance, even if they are branded as inspirational beliefs instead of factual information. My questions are, how will you manage this? How do you prevent this? Will you put a better system allowing a better tolerance, like the current society is working on but is not quite getting it yet? Will you just reform everything to a common ground? How will you balance all of this without giving the society a feeling of oppression, leading to a potential uproar? Well, okay, so first off, that huge violation of the do not send me paragraphs rule, but I'm answering it, one, because you're KC, and we've known each other for a very long time, and two, because you raise a good point. The thing is, as a wise man once said, you could have peace, or you could have freedom. You can't have both. Our current society takes enough freedoms away from its population in order to maintain peace and gives enough freedoms to its population in order to maintain complacency. That's not anything new. What I'm looking to do in our new world is take just a handful of other freedoms that I don't think people should have away from them in order to maintain a larger peace. No, you are not going to be allowed to randomly stand around and spout hate speech. That is not something we will have. The United States has freedom of speech, which is you can just say whatever the heck you want, and as long as you're not currently doing anything, nobody cares. But the spread of ideologies can be extraordinarily dangerous if those ideologies are destructive to the society at hand. And people being silenced can be seen as a kind of oppression, but honestly, maybe some people, like the Nazis, need to be shushed. In Canada, what we have is freedom of expression, which means you are allowed to talk and express yourself as freely as you like, but you are not allowed to take part in hate speech. You are not allowed to stand on a corner with a megaphone and scream at people about how they're dirty and filthy and awful for being of a different skin color or something like that. Like, those people get arrested for disturbing the peace and spreading hate speech, and those people get thrown in jail. You see it all the time at Yonge and Dundas Square in Toronto, honestly. You get people standing there with a megaphone screaming at someone point blank range about how they don't follow the same religion as them, so they're awful and they're heathens. And those people usually get to do that for about 15 or 20 minutes or so, and then the police will show up and tell them to stop. And if they don't, then those folks get arrested. I've seen it happen. Some may see this as a bad thing because you're taking away people's freedom to talk and express themselves. But it applies, at least in our new world, to the same thing as religion. If the thing that you're doing in your religion, the stories that you're telling, the poetry that you recite and whatnot, if it's something that's designed to uplift people, even just like the people who follow your religion, that's fine. But if any part of it is at the detriment of some other group of people or other people even that don't follow your religion, then that's not okay. That will not be allowed to be propagated. You can't just stand around and say that because you're a part of said religion that you're the master race and that you get to be in charge of everything and everyone else sucks except you. And there's obvious, like, very tame versions of this that are going to be allowed. Things like people who are like, I'm a fan of Sports Club A, and we're better than everyone else. Yeah, and Sports Club B gets to say the same thing, and they get to chant at each other about how they think they're great or whatever. But it can very quickly become a damaging ideology when you stand up in front of everybody and say, you know, we're the best ever and everyone else can die. Like David and Goliath was a story about how you can still defeat seemingly insurmountable adversaries as long as you're smart about it. Things like that. Those are fine. But stories about how, you know, just because someone has a different skin color than you, that means they're evil or something like that. Like, no, if that's a part of your religion, stop that. What's the point of that religion then? It goes on, and honestly, it just boils down to, is the thing you're saying designed to uplift people, or is it designed to put someone else down? Some ideologies will do both. Really, we're just looking to maintain the ideologies that uplift people and remove the ones that don't. So gotta ask, haven't heard of you pulling any heists or robberies in the last year or so. Are you planning your next big scheme, or are you spending more of your time tinkering with the Mechanolith Mark II? Next question. Okay. Truthfully, yeah. I mean, I've been not getting into as many heists and shenanigans as I would have liked. I have been focusing a lot on building the new armor. I've been focusing a lot on doing our Twitch streams because that is making us a lot more money than robbing banks ever will, and that's just wild considering I don't have that many followers. I'm also working on doing stuff like this, like getting my YouTube presence kind of back up and running and solidifying a lot of the events and panels and convention things that I'm going to be doing in the coming years. So there's a lot sort of on the table, there's a lot on my plate that I'm kind of trying to work through. More or less, though, I mean, things are going well. But yes, we have a lot of plans in the future. I don't want to give out any specifics because that would be telling. So say Dr. Steele successfully took over the world before you did. Would you try to take control away from him or do something else? Well, imagining that Dr. Steele came out of retirement, it would really depend on what it is that he's doing. I know that he was looking for the Utopian Playland, and he had a lot of robots involved in his plan. I didn't read through his manifesto, like, fully. I do have a copy of his letter of retirement, though, somewhere in the archives, which is important. It's important to me, at least. But if he did take over, I would seek to work with before working against, depending on what it is that he's doing. So, yeah. Doc, with the beef industry getting the axe in the Brave New World, is the pork and poultry business also on the block, or will they be given some leeway? Honestly, yes. The pork and poultry business are also going to be on the chopping block, because we no longer exist in a society that requires us to domesticate and slaughter animals. There was a time, once upon a time, where it was very required of our culture and our society to do so. But that has wildly gotten out of hand, especially with factory farming, and science has progressed in such a way that has allowed us now to create nourishment that is the same as those things, is indistinguishable from those products, without needing to kill animals. I mean, we can have meat without killing animals now. So now that you have a choice on whether or not you're going to kill animals in order to get meat, why choose killing animals? I mean, just because a lot of people work in that industry is not an excuse to me. Those people can be relocated to other industries. Those people can be given technology and training and other jobs. I mean, I get that so often. Just my dad was a beef farmer, and his dad was a beef farmer, and his dad was a beef farmer, so I'm going to be a beef farmer. Well, too bad! The world's trying to march forward, and we can't all stop what we're doing here, and the inevitable march of culture and society and technological process just because you have a tradition in whatever it is field that you're working in. Loads of industries have been just made obsolete by the marching of technology, and meat industries are going to be no different. I mean, geez, I found a lot of vegan cheeses that are delicious and are indistinguishable from a lot of the cheese that I normally eat. So then, why not just do that, right? Like, and I love cheese, and I'm okay with it, so like, wait, just grow the f*** up. Anyway. Hey Doc, easy question for you. Reddit doesn't like me sharing your videos, so where do I put your videos instead? Mount a QR code on light poles or force them down people's throats violently? Well, Grayson Wolf, first off, thank you for sharing our content. That's really awesome. But if they're not liking you sharing stuff that's from here, like from the YouTube perspective, then we can get... I mean, you can share it on Facebook, share it on Twitter, I think you can share stuff like this on Instagram, I'm not sure yet, I haven't looked into that. I'm kind of right now working on just getting these done and ready and sending them out so that everyone can have these videos and not have to worry so much about them. But I want to, at some point, eventually get back to being able to spread these things all over the place. Like, we're looking into, like we did with our Shack video, not just putting it on YouTube, but also posting the same video on Facebook so that it can be shared on Facebook without there being a link, because Facebook does not like it when you share YouTube links there either. If you do it, they just put the link thing and then you have to click it and it goes out. It doesn't open up a player and then play for you most of the time. It goes along. So if you want videos on Facebook, then you're going to have to create and upload a separate thing, which we tried and it actually worked out pretty well. So we're looking into doing that as well. There's going to be some other avenues in which we're trying to spread, but for now it's just, share it on Facebook, share it on Twitter, pass it around from different people, do what you can in the meantime, until eventually we have enough income from both Patreon and Twitch and some other things to pay someone to do this. Social media management's a full-time job, and frankly, I hate it. And that is all the questions that we've got for today. So thank you everybody for coming on out and asking your questions. Thank you very much for giving this a consideration, for liking this video, for spreading it around, for leaving your comments in the section down below. If you have any questions that you would like to ask, then leave them in the comment section under this video. And until next time, my brave citizens, I'm Toronto's greatest supervillain and evil genius, Dr. Terawatt. This is our Layer 3.1, and I will see you on the warfront. End of line.